At number 25, we have the New Orleans Saints. Now, the Saints are coming off of an over 500 season, but just barely. My problem with them is it doesn't seem like they're taking any initiative to improve their standing. They're going to keep Carr, but they just, even with him, they never felt like a unit running at their best. And I love Derek Carr because I watched him in college. Hopefully, for their fans, they get it better put together this next season with Dennis Allen. But I think maybe it's just a scheme change that's needed. Like maybe you need to change what system you're using to play with Carr to make the team successful. And cap space is a thing that they have to worry about consistently. So if they can handle both of those things, then they might be in an upswing. But I don't think it's looking very bright for them. At 24, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, with Jacksonville, I would have more faith in this team winning if they didn't just middle of their season the whole time and then blow it in a game that should have been an easy one against the Titans in the last game. I think Doug Peterson has to make the playoffs in order to keep his job in the next year or two because he's been there for this will be his third year, so it'll be full time. And Trevor Lawrence also needs to show improvement rather than regressing like he seemed to this year in order for them to go on the upswing. And I don't think they would ever trade Trevor Lawrence, but they definitely would be looking for his replacement if he doesn't perform this year. At 23, I have the New England Patriots. A number 3 pick to get the scraps of 1 and 2 for the obvious right now of Caleb, Drake, and Jaden. But I have them up here because a new QB, a new coach, and a already established defense that Jerod Mayo was already leading, the Patriots are looking up. Now, I do hope the red, white, and, mm, words do lose more than they win, but they are in the upper echelon of the lower half of the league with what they do have. Um, with what they do have like already. So like I said, defense is going to be still be good. They have all the players there, and Gerard's still a defensive minded coach. So I don't feel like they're going to be losing much on that end. It's just going to be improving the other side of the ball, and that might take some time. But I feel like their defense is going to be able to win them some games if their offense even improves a little bit. At 22, I have the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Falcons are in an interesting spot as they do have a ton of talent all around them, except for quarterback. They aren't exactly in the best spot to draft one either, but firing Arthur Smith to bring in Raheem Morris is a good start. While swapping offensive or defensive coach, they can maybe find a QB that can work for them in the interim, or maybe get a guy to last a good few years, like Kirk Cousins, or maybe even Russell Wilson after the Broncos cut him. But they're almost middle of the pack with where they are now. I think there's only one NFC South team that'll beat them, and we'll talk about them soon. At 21, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles were a little tough to place for me because they did have a great first half and then just completely and utterly collapsed in a hilarious and sad fashion. Sirianni fired both coordinators. Jason Kelsey is 1 foot out the door. He's said that he's going to make an official announcement if he retires. I'm not going to say he is retired until he makes that announcement, but we're kind of feeling it year by year right now, which is why I say that. And it felt like AJ Brown was separating himself from the team for a while. Now they brought in Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore, who were Dolphins defensive and Chargers offensive coordinators respectively. And while they didn't have great seasons, the style of play is what I think Sirianni's looking for. Because the rumor mill says Vic and the Dolphins was just tough, and that's kind of the identity of Philly right now is a tough football team. Kellen and I'm not sure why, just off of what I know about the organization, but I think Sirianni thinks Moore's game plan will work in Philly with Jalen. Only time will tell, though, but getting new coordinators, a couple of key players either leaving or having internal strife means that they likely start 2024 how they ended 2023, losing more than winning. At number 20, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Steelers are making some decisions for the future in hiring Arthur Smith, and if rumors are to be true, it might be a possible landing spot for Russell Wilson. Um, and while I'm sure Arthur Smith's game plan that he had in Tennessee may work for the Steelers, having Najee and Jalen in the back, the actual play calling from his as a head coach wasn't great. Not getting many points on the board with all that talent, and he's going from a bad QB situation to an arguably worse one. Um, if I had to choose, well, between Desmond Ritter and Kenny Pickett, I'd have to flip a coin to decide. If the Steelers pick up Russ, then they might be in a much better position, and we'll see what Kenny Pickett is capable of whenever he's got an actual person that can threaten his job. Um, and honestly, that quarterback situation is not going to be a great position to be in if you're first year offensive coordinator in Arthur Smith. Um, so we'll see how they're going to do, but I'm expecting another like middle of the road season where they may or may not make the playoffs, but they're kind of be on the fringe. At number 19, I have the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks were just on the cusp of playoffs this past year, and I think they'll be somewhere in the mix for it this coming season. But there's a lot of cultural changes going to happen in Seattle with the introduction of Mike McDonald and Pete Carroll having to be gone. The defense is going to be shaping up to be a shaping up, a bit scheme wise because in the coming year with Mike McDonald coming on, and Gino is solid enough with DK to carry the offense for the season. I think they'll be close to, if not a winning team, but I don't see them making it deep this season. But 2025. And then at 18, we have the LA Chargers. Jim Harbaugh is coming to town. I apologize. It sounded like, eh. I'm my throat is thing, but everybody in LA is kind of singing this tune because the Chargers finally have a legitimate head coach. Um, so there's a lot to be happy about in LA, but most people agree that the talent on the team should have been winning games, and it just wasn't. Now, with a new coach who's been proven to get an NFL team to the big game, and he got the national title in college, and, allegations and whatnot aside, the sky is the limit. Now, it will probably be a growing year, much like Seattle that we talked about, where getting used to Harbaugh's culture will come into play, and then after that, I think it will start to be look up. This is going to be that lean year. I think the Chargers have the chance to sneak in, but they're arguably in the toughest AFC division in the West. And there's two teams that I haven't mentioned yet that are in there. So that should give you an idea how much work Harbert, which is Harbaugh and Justin Herbert, is going to have to work.